Hey everyone, hello. We have Thursday again here and clue two for the dangle knit along. I see you're all waiting here. Hey Kirsty and Judy, it is cold in Newfoundland. Opposite here, I'm warm, even in short sleeves. Annette, hello from Hamilton in Canada, and another Cecilia from Canada. We've got a lot of Canadians here today. Mel, you're not quite there up in New York. Move on a little bit further up, and you'll have matched your Canadians. And Cheryl from California. Oh, it's pretty early in California. Hey Liz and Audrey from Chattanooga. Well, I'm here by myself in the studio. I'm going a little bit stir crazy because Laura's been away for nearly 2 weeks now, another week to go. And I'm kind of rattling around the space. Magali is in here a few days a week, but not for full days, for half days. So I'm really unused to spending so much time by myself. And by the time I get to the afternoon, I've got the music on. I'm kind of like bouncing around dancing. So anyone looking in the side probably starts to think that I've kind of somewhat lost my mind. But yeah, what do you do if you're by yourself in a studio space and entertaining yourself, right? Um, I hope you are all having a good Thursday. How are you getting on with Clue 2? Have you gotten started with it? Have you decided? Um, Hang on, I'm not sure. Is my speaker working here? Because I'm not seeing the sound go up and down as I am talking. So I'm a little concerned that the sound may not be great here. It is fine, good. Yeah, normally I've got a set of buttons under here and it kind of goes up and down as I'm speaking, but it's not today. So I was a little worried that I was kind of talking into the void. But yeah, so how are you getting on? Have you decided what kind of body shape you're doing? We've obviously got three different body shaping options. We've got straight down, which is this one here. The sweater is just straight down. On the cardigan, I've shown hourglass. I call it hourglass, which sounds a lot more dramatic than it is. It's very gentle hourglass shaping, but it was just done to differentiate how it's shaped versus the other ones. And the last option is A-line shaping, which I haven't got shown here, but it is detailed in the pattern. And the reason I've given several different body shaping options is I do realize that when people are knitting for themselves, it's definitely not a one size fits all. You want to be able to change the body so that it suits yourself, whether you've got a particular shape you like, or if you want to change where the waist positioning is, or how much shaping there is, and all the rest of it. Um, so over here, I can see Jeanette, you are doing A-line, and Liz, you are doing A-line on the cardigan. Kathy, you said you got a couple of holes when you added armhole stitches. Can you fix them when you pick up stitches for the arms? Yes, you absolutely can. And I will talk a little bit about that because there are a few techniques that I use for when I cast on at the underarm part that can sometimes help. So the first thing we do before we decide which body shaping we're going to do is you have to cast on stitches for the underarm. Now, some of the discussions we were having last week, or a couple of weeks ago, I should say, was if you were going to make modifications where you had more stitches in the front versus the back, or if your sleeves were going to be bigger. So this is where you would kind of determine where everything's going to go. So if you wanted to keep the same bust size, say you wanted to do a 40-inch bust size, but you wanted more of it in the front than the back. So say 2 inches more. So every 6 stitches is an inch. So 12 stitches more in the front, 12 stitches less on the back. So that will mean that when you divide the stitches, you just have them in different positions basically, but the number of stitches would stay the same, just in a different location. If you want to add on a bigger sleeve and a bigger body, then one place you can do it is when you do the cast on stitches, adding a couple of extra. Because if you've got a few more for the body, then you can pick up a few more for the sleeves. Or if you want to do more for the sleeves and not for the body, you could pick up more stitches in the underarm or you could even do extra increases before you reach it and then remove those extra stitches for the sleeve. So there's a few different options as you move your way along, but one thing to bear in mind is if you cast on extra underarm stitches, you will need to either pick them up for the sleeve, or else space your pickups for the sleeve a little bit more widely, or possibly do decreases more quickly when you start doing the sleeve so that you don't end up with too many stitches at the top of the sleeve. So at the underarm, the way I usually recommend doing it is turning to the wrong side, doing a cable cast on, and then turning back to the right side and joining in the round. Yeah, not joining in the round, rejoining the front and the back. The reason I suggest that is the cable cast on is a fairly inelastic cast on, and it's going to give you a firmer or a more robust underarm section. What can happen easily is the part where you join in the front and in the back of it really very often ends up with holes. So there's two ways of fixing it. First one is, if you frequently get that as you're casting it on, cast on 2 stitches less. So if it's meant to be 10 stitches cast on 8. And then when you come back the next time and you encounter the gap or that loose stitch, pick up that strand and knit into it, or twist it and knit it, and do the same on the other side. So you're basically using then the places where you naturally get a gap and knitting into it. So that's one way of doing it. And then the other way, where Kathy, yes, you were asking what you can do, how to fix it, is what you can do then also is a variant on that when you pick up the sleeves. So if you had your 10 stitches, but you've still got quite a bit of gaps, what I will frequently do when I'm doing the sleeves is I'll pick up an extra stitch on each side and then immediately decrease it on the next round. So it both picks up the spot where you've got a bit more spacing, but then by decreasing it, it actually kind of pulls it in together. So there's a few different ways of kind of helping sort it out, but it's really common just simply because when you do a cast on like that, the edges just tend to be very prone to having gaps. So they're the methods I usually do. If I remember it, I will do 2 less and pick up the gaps. But for the most part, I end up going with the picking up an extra stitch on each side with the sleeves and then decreasing it to get rid of the gap at each side. I'm having a look over here now. Cecilia, you're going with straight. Diane, you're doing the straight cardigan. Kirsty, you're going to do the hourglass to accentuate your imaginary waist. It does wonders. I will say that hourglass shaping, even a tiny bit, actually creates quite a nice shape, because I don't have, my waist to hips is relatively straight. There's not much of a difference, but I do find just a teeny little bit in actually kind of gives a little bit more shaping to the body. So particularly if you only do a little bit, like this one is not very dramatic, it actually is, it's quite flattering to add just a little bit in. Audrey, you're going to do the hourglass shaping of the sweater because you have to go up a slice for the sleeve. That's perfect. And then by doing the shaping in, it means that it's not going to feel oversized the whole way down, and it gives you a little bit more of a curve as you're going through. That's perfect. Becky, you're good. Waist shaping works best for you. Judy, you're on your way to 2 and you're doing the hourglass shaping. Tabby, you normally go straight, but you're going to try the hourglass. Excellent. That's really good. I am a fan of hourglass shaping. I haven't done it in a while. I've been doing a lot of A-line and for a torque last year because it had very heavy pattern stitch on it. I left it straight because adding and shaping to that would have been really complex. So we kept the shaping straightforward in it. Tabby, you love the cable cast on at the underarm. It'll be your go-to from now on. It's so neat and no holes. It's so much better. Like anyone who has done, like the way I was taught, and the way I had always seen when I learned how to do top-down knitting, is because you want to knit as you're working across, the default used was the backwards loop cast on. And if you've done the backwards loop cast on, it's very loose, it's sloppy, and it doesn't really, it's very, very prone to leaving a lot of gaps. And I think the main reason for doing it that way is so that you didn't have the faff of turning to the wrong side to the cast on and then turning it back to the right, because from a pattern writing point of view, it's a little bit, it's awkward. But to me, because the results are so much nicer, it's well worth turning it around to the wrong side to do that cable cast on. So I am glad to introduce you to it, Tabby. I don't do it any other way now. I'll always go to the other side. Diane, what's on the cardigan behind you? Is it straight? No, it is hourglass shaping, and that's what I was saying. It's very subtle. So if I come down to the back, let me turn it over here. It's probably going to be a little easier to see on the back versus the front. So it's because it's done on the princess line. So you've got these lines coming down here, a third in from each side in the back, or a quarter in on each side in the front. And then there's only 4 decreases coming down and 4 increases down here. So that means that because there's 4 by 4, so 16 stitches decrease down. So it's only a little over 2 inches decreased into the waist. So it's really subtle, and most people can actually wear it with that little bit of decreases. The one thing I did find as I was going through is if you accidentally end up kind of doing too many rows between things, or if your row gauge changes as you're going, you'll spot it very quickly if you try it on, because you want your decreases to hit at the top of your waist. So when you lean sideways, the top of that part where it bends over is where you want the start of the decreases. So if you're finding that your row spacing is going to hit further down than that, then you can just start moving them up a little bit closer together. If you want to add in some extra decreases, then you'll have to, and you want to keep where it is the same, you'll need to move those a little bit closer together. So you can move it around as you want, but the main thing is you want this to be finished at the start of your natural waist. So do a little bit of seam blocking, try it on, make sure that it's hitting where you want it to hit as you go along. Kimberly, hi Kimberly, you're a few minutes. Don't worry, Kimberly. But if you do have any questions, just pop them on in up here. Oh, you're doing hourglass. You learned from me that doing waist shaping helps you look like you have shape, even if that's not your shaping. Yeah, exactly. I think I do really like having a little bit of hourglass shaping. So if you're doing straight down, I find like this one here, I feel like it's more of a kind of a t-shirt style, a more casual. You probably are best with that, keeping the fit of the bust a little smaller so the overall doesn't end up feeling too big. Same with A-line. I find if you keep the bust a little bit more fitted of the A-line, so that as you come down and you're coming a little bit further out towards the bottom, it doesn't get really big. With hourglass, you can actually get away with slightly more ease at the bust, because if you're coming in at the waist, it's going to give it a small bit more fit. If you like it more fitted, do just add more extra increases and then more decreases and increases. I keep flipping backwards and forth. But it of course depends which way you're going. This one we're going top down, so we've got decreases first and then increases. If it's bottom up, it would be the opposite. It would be decreases and then increases. It all depends on which direction you're traveling in. Now, if you are changing the length of your body and you're doing hourglass shaping, you also probably want to think about where you want to make that change. So if you've got a high waist and you want to shorten everything, then this section from the bust to the waist is where you want to shorten it. But if you are a shorter waist, so it's up further, you'll want to move these spacing a little closer together. But if you still want to keep the length, then you will space the bottom ones down. So it depends on whether you want to add length and where you want the waist to hit for yourself. So I am a big believer in seam blocking, trying it on that way. If your gauge changes a little, or if you're not really sure what your body measurements are, if they're accurate, because maybe you didn't have anyone to help you, you can just do it as you go along. So you can put this on, you can measure how far you've got to get to your waist as you're wearing it on you. So keep trying it on. Put the second half of it on a barber cord or on a second needle, and just keep checking. Get a measuring tape out, measure, see how many inches you've got, how many rows you've got, and you can figure out where it's going to hit. So you don't have to do a huge amount of calculations if you ensure that you keep checking, because you can just eyeball it and just figure it out as you're going through it. Kathy, you're doing straight and it's your first sweater. Oh, that's fantastic, Kathy. And actually, straight is probably the most straightforward if you're starting out, because then you're not worried about adding anything extra in. You're just reaching the point where you want the length to be. But even if you are doing it straight, I would still definitely suggest trying it on so that you can make sure that the length of it is hitting where you want to go. And Kathy, how is it going for you with have you finished the yoke at this point? Yeah, this is actually, I think, a nice first sweater, because outside of the color work, the rest of it is pretty straightforward, and it gives you a great set of tools for doing any kind of top-down knitting, because you learn how to work in the round, you learn how to take those stitches out and hold them separately, and how to cast on those underarm stitches. And then the final thing we'll be doing in clue 3 will be how you work a small circumference for those sleeves and pick up the stitches on the underside. And you will need to do some decreases there, unless you're doing short sleeve. But if you're doing long sleeve, you'll need to do decreases down on the underside of the sleeve. Yeah, I love hearing when people are doing a sweater for the first time. It's a very it's exciting, because to me that was why I wanted to learn how to knit as an adult. Is I wanted to knit sweaters. I wanted to be able to pick the color I wanted. I wanted something that fit me exactly. And I felt like a superstar when particularly with top down, because of the fact that I could try it on as I went. So yeah, I am a big fan of top-down sweaters for a first sweater. Diane, would I suggest the Hourglass if your hip measurement is 1 inch wider than the bust size? Um, yes, but with caveat, because the Hourglass assumes you're going to have the same bust size as hip size. So if you want your hip size a little bit bigger, what I would suggest then is working more hip increases as you go down as well. So you might move them a little bit closer together and add perhaps one more, I think, hip increase round, so that it brings it out a little bit further. But the actual waist shaping won't really make a big difference to that. But you probably do want to have a little bit more room around the hips. So one more hip increase round should be your sweet spot, because it'll be 4 stitches, which is just a little under an extra inch more, which I think should be fine. Jeanette, your comment was too long. Or you'll have to break your comment up into a couple of shorter ones if you pop them on up there again. Kimberly, you have 2 different dye lots for your main color, and you're using the helical stripe method for alternating skeins. That's a really good idea. So anyone, if you haven't come across helical stripes before, they are a dream for something like this, where you're working in the round and you're trying to alternate between colors, whether it's 2 different dye lots, or more often than not, it tends to be for hand dyed yarns. And there's a free pattern on the website called Heli, where you can practice it. It's just what you're doing is you're alternating a round with a different color each time. So one round with one color, one round with the next color. Standard method for doing that, you have the same spot where you swap between the colors. You end up with kind of a twisted column of stitches that's all in one place. Helical stripes, you stop three stitches before you reach the next color. You slip them, then you start working that one. And the next one, you stop 3 stitch before you slip them. So what it means is you're working with the fact that you're making this is a helix, because it's continuously all the way down. And so you're just moving the start of that helix so that you never have that column swapping over one on top of each other. And it makes for really smooth transition, and it's very easy to work if it's completely in stockinette stitch like that. So if you haven't come across that before, have a look in and just look up the Heli pattern. And Hannah has popped it up there, the helical stripes pattern, the Heli hat. So if you want to try it out, that's a good one to start with. Jeanette, you started off with the cardigan, and your clue 2 is coming along nicely, but you're leaving me hanging, Jeanette. I feel like this is literally a cliffhanger. We're going to see what problems that here we go. I'm going to just ignore that and watch it pop up a second there. But Yeah, is there any other problems that people are coming up with? Just pop it up in the comments if there's something that either is working really well for you that you'd like to share, or if there's something that you'd like a little bit more help with. Jeanette, you are considering not cutting and just wearing it as a sweater. Fair enough. That I mean that's totally valid. Like if you're going through and you like the way it looks, then go for it. You will end up with the bridge stitches down the front though. So there is, if you don't want the bridge stitches, you could always do duplicate stitch over it. But at the front you could probably fill it in at the front, but like the reality is that you don't actually have to make your decision until you reach the end, so it'll be fine. So if you, when you're working your way down and you're doing decreases, if you're doing the sweater, you start here. So as you work around, you got your marker, and then the next one is the decrease, and then you work your way around here, and then there's the next decrease outside the marker, next decrease outside this marker, and the final one is outside this marker before you come back to the end of the round. If you are working the cardigan, your starter round is over here before the bridge stitches. So you come over here, slip it, and then the first decrease, and then you come across to the back ones where there's a decrease outside it here, work the back ones, decrease, and you come all the way around over here, and you have your final decrease. So the decreases are going to be the same, it's just where your start around is different depending on whether you're doing a cardigan or the sweater, simply because of the fact that you want your start of your round on the back for a sweater, because you do not want a start of a round or any potential jog up here. So if there's going to be a jog or anything where you change between rounds, you always want that in the middle of the back. And the reasons in the front here is because the bridge is a wonderful place for hiding things. You can cut it and it folds things back, and it is the perfect hiding spot. So that's why we want to start at the side of the bridge when you're working the cardigan in the round. Jeanette, it was the nightmare that has me it was the nightmare that has made me consider not steeking. Oh no! Okay, before you do it, Jeanette, you should definitely do a little swatch, and it doesn't even have to be done in the round. You can just do a stockinette stitch swatch, either in Colourwork or just plain stockinette stitch. And you can experiment. You can try the felted method, you can try the crochet steek method, and before you ever cut a cardigan, basically do enough tests that you feel really confident that it's going to hold in place. So I would never suggest jumping straight into the cardigan to steek for the first time. I would always say use your swatch to do the practice, so that you feel very comfortable that the technique you're using, you know what you're doing. There's not going to be any surprises, and it'll feel really comfortable. So it doesn't, I haven't had a problem with the steek go AWOL on me. But I also didn't jump straight in with it. I've done lots and lots of little practices so that I felt very comfortable by the time I went to the big one. So hopefully that will reassure you and make you feel a little bit better. And I know there was a couple of questions that came up. The first one, I think I've answered most of them. We were talking about changing the bust sizes and where you do that. So whether you do it for extra underarm stitches or stitches beforehand, they're the two main areas. And just keep in mind again, whether it's going to have a knock-on effect of if you do it on the underarm, increasing the sleeve size potentially. The next one is taking a look at body length and how you would adjust it. So if it's straight down, you just knit the length you want, and make sure if you're adding length, you've got enough extra yarn. If you're shortening it, if it's straight down, that's no problem. If it's A-line, you may want to move the spacing of the decreases a little closer together. And if it's an hourglass, you need to think about where you want it shorter. Do you want it shorter coming down to your waist, or do you want the waist in the same position as the pattern and it's shorter in the bottom half? So think about how your body's shaped and where best to put to reduce the length for your own body. Melvia, I have this on the list as well. You were talking about the fact that on the second increase round, I've done a lifted increase, and you were traveling when you're working on it, so you did the make one right increase. It's not a really big deal. The main reason I had for that second one down there as you were moving out, I ended up doing the lifted increase because I find it a little bit more invisible, and particularly as they get further spaced out, I quite like the way it looked. I don't like the lifted increase as much when there's a huge amount in one round, which is why I left it out from the top, because it pulls up from the row below, so it's going to be a little bit more prone to puckering than the make one. But like anytime you have a lot of increases, you will often end up getting a small amount of puckering that usually will flatten out with blocking. So if it's not lying totally straight with the circular increases, see if the steam block is going to do the job for you, so you can be kind of more comfortable as you go in. Jeanette, the Judy, the color work is good. I'm glad you're enjoying the color work. And Jeanette, you were saying that sounds like a plan. Yeah, just swatch and test it out. It really does help. Kirsty, you intend on doing a practice steek as well. Yeah, that's a great idea. Liz is reassuring you, Jeanette, that it's not as hard as it sounds, and do a few practice pieces first of all. And she prefers the crochet method. So yeah, I like the crochet method because because you're going through every single stitch, you really do feel like you're locking each one together. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. And in fact, if you could even then afterwards go and also do some felting if you wanted to be double sure. Judy, you're trying something new. You're increasing your needle size to see it gives you more room through the bust since you have narrow shoulders. Oh, let us know how you're getting on, Judy. I'm curious to see if that works well for you, because sometimes you're only looking for, if you're just looking for a tiny bit extra for the bust, then that will do the job. Like short rows will work as well, but they are definitely a little bit more work. That is, I think, the last of the questions that have come up are things that are going to be relevant to this particular clue. Like the last section down here again as well is there's just a little hem color work to link the whole thing in together, which is just quite similar to the first one. So it's just a 4-stitch repeat. And because each of your increases and decreases are all happening in multiples of 4, it means that if you make adjustments to the number of increase or decrease rounds, it shouldn't matter, because if you're working them the way they are in the pattern, they'll all be changed in multiples of 4, which then will mean that your hem is going to still work for the way the pattern's written. So that should make it a little bit easier. And the other thing I want to remind you of is on Monday, the 26th, which I believe is next Monday, we're going to do a raffle for the prize, the Clue 1 photo prize. So it's just put it up in the thread in Knithub, where we've got it pinned at the top right now, where when your photo of your Clue 1 of your yoke is finished, pop it up there. And next Monday, we'll pick a winner for a self-published pattern. So all you need to do to enter is get your photo into that thread. And we also get to look at all the lovely photos, and the work that you're doing, people, is just wonderful. Like the colors, the different variations, the sizing, they are looking so good. I'm particularly enjoying people who are experimenting with multiple colors and doing different colors for some of the motifs. Looks really, really, really good. So it makes it feel like everybody is making this their own. You're taking it, you're taking my pattern, what I've designed, and you're just running with it, which is what knit alongs are all about. So it's really nice to see. And I think that Hannah has just popped up the Clue raffle thread. So if you weren't sure where it is, the link is right there. So you should be ready to go with it. And also, if you tag us on any social media channels that we're on, like the main ones we're on, will be Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. I think that's obviously here on YouTube. But if you tag us, we'll make sure to share your work if you'd like it to be shared. And it also means we can find it. Audrey, you've just finished the color work and you're onto the solid section of the yoke. Oh, very good. Audrey, did your adjustments work for you? I hope that because I know that you were tweaking the new color work, and did it work out the way you wanted? Hopefully, I must have a look to see if you've posted any photographs of it up, because I hope that the shoulder increases, the faster shoulder increases, worked well for you. Janet, Do you need to post the photo again if you already did? If you posted in that thread, no need to post it again. You're already in the raffle. You're good. Judy, you saw someone just pick up stitches and knit a fake band and sew on the buttons. Oh, you're totally right. That's actually another, you are correct. And in fact, the way I've worked the front of this, I've picked up the stitches before I do the steek. So if you didn't want to steek and you're happy to wear it as a sweater, you could in fact do the pickups and then keep it permanently closed over the bridge stitches. So it is an option, but I would give it a shot anyway at doing the little swatch to see if it's something you're comfortable with. Don't run away from it quite yet. Give it a little shot. But there are plenty of options if you're not comfortable with it for sure. Audrey, you'll be trying it on after the next row. Ooh, excellent. I hope, fingers crossed, it all goes well for you because it's always exciting when you get to do the try on. Jeanette, I've got the first two words from you. You've got an "are we?" So just I'll wait. I'll give you a few minutes to see if the rest of the post pops up there. And I just want to remind you as well that our next live, YouTube live right here, new link obviously, it's going to be Thursday, 4:30 again in 2 weeks' time. Well, it will be clue 3. And we get to talk about the sleeves, the finishing, and the steeking. So bring all of your steeking questions next Thursday, Thursday week, which is going to be June the 5th. But yeah, thank you all for joining me. And as always, if you've got questions that come up while you're watching this, just pop them on down here in the comments because this will be saved afterwards. Or also just put them into the Knithub, the Daingean knit along thread in or space on Knithub, and I find them all there. Or Emer often gets to them before me. But thank you for joining me today, and have a great end of week, everyone. Bye.